Hi, Stitchy friends. It's Kara, the Granite State Stitcher, both here on YouTube and on Instagram. And this is my channel mainly about cross stitch, but I do throw some other crafty endeavors in there from time to time. So if you are brand new and just happen to find me, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are a returning subscriber, thanks for tuning into another video. I appreciate all of you. So today is Sunday, February 9th, and it's only been 2 weeks since my last video. So I really don't have a lot of stitching to show you. I do have a couple of boxing reveals that I got in the mail, Stitchy Kindness, and I do want to talk about JOANNs. My cousin works at JOANNs, and they all received an employee letter this week, which I can't share the contents of the letter with you, but I can talk about what she knows about the bankruptcy. That's public knowledge, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in hearing about what's going to be happening with JOANNs from the employee's perspective. So not a lot to share. Like I said, we did have a snowstorm last night. It's funny because my last video last month, I was talking about how my snow day piece is probably going to take years to finish because we just haven't had any snow this year. And last night we got about 8 inches. The joke was last month here in New Hampshire was that Florida had gotten more snow than we had this winter so far, but now we're eating our words because we got a significant amount last night. I'll show you a picture of my deck. The poor dogs, I went to let them out this morning and the snow was up to their bellies. So, but we have another storm coming on Thursday and then another storm coming on Sunday potentially. So we're making up. Mother Nature's, letting us have it now, making up for lost time, I guess. But I had to say, now my bedroom is on the front of the house. So the plows, when they come by at nighttime, they are loud and they wake me up and they wake up the dogs and the dogs start barking and they have this rotating light on the top of them, that boom, 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 boom. So, and it reminds me of, I'm going to date myself here. Do any of you remember that cartoon show called Underdog? I used to watch it when I was a kid, and there was a mad scientist character in that cartoon. He had the dark circles around his eyes, and he was always creating like these robot type menaces that would, he would be trying to take over the world. And I just remember one episode where he had this army of robots. And what's funny is that all they were was a rectangular, like square, a rectangular with shape with the square head on top and this rotating light on the top of them. So every time I see one of our plows here in Dover, that's what I think of. I think of that darn robot because our plows are more vertical, I guess. They're very high up and they look to be more vertical than they are horizontal. So anyway, something stupid. I digress, sorry. But that's what they make me think of. And wow, I just noticed, sorry guys, I have hat head too. I've been out shoveling. But last week we had an earthquake. And now we get earthquakes occasionally here in New England, not very often. I probably remember off the top of my head, maybe 4 or 5 times in my lifetime that we've experienced some type of rumbling. And even then it's like, it just feels like a heavy truck drove by, and shakes the house, and it's only for a few seconds. This one was intense for New England purposes. There was a loud bang, And I don't know, this is the first time I have ever associated a noise with an earthquake, and I don't know if that's common. Like I said, New England doesn't usually get them, but there were sound effects with this earthquake. And the house, I mean, the house was shaking and the dogs were going crazy. I didn't know what was going on. I had a neighbor up the street who was having a tree cut down, and they had the crane, over at his house, and, using it to cut down the tree. And I thought maybe the crane had fallen over or something. But the shaking and the rumbling lasted a good 10, 12 seconds. And then we found out when we watched the news that we had an earthquake, and it was actually, I think they said the epicenter was 6 miles off the coast of York Beach, Maine, which is right next to New Hampshire. And they had originally said initially that it was a 4.0, but then they changed it to either 3.8 or 3.9. But that's still pretty significant for New England because, like I said, we never get earthquakes. So that was been our bit of excitement for the past 2 weeks, the earthquake and then a snowstorm. Before we get started, let me do my shout outs for the week. And the first one is, and I don't know where I've been, Alicia the Fanciful Flamingo. I know that probably you all watch her. I have been subscribed to her channel, but for some reason I've never watched her videos. I don't know why. I met her last year at the Library Stitches retreat. Lovely, lovely person. And she's from Florida. And I follow her on Instagram. I buy from her store from time to time. I was subscribed in her Box of the Month club last year. And this year she has changed it to a Box of the Quarter club, mainly because now she is introducing other designers and makers from other countries. So, of course, it takes longer for the supplies to come in that she's putting into her box. And here comes the sun again. This is the second time I've shot this video, guys, because the sun was just streaming in through the slider before, and I can't close that off, sorry. But we'll make do. It keeps popping in and out behind clouds. So definitely go check out her channel if you haven't seen her before. She is so funny. She's so funny. I just love her sense of humor, and you will too. The second shout out goes to a Dutch stitcher, Hanneke, and she is in the Netherlands. Now, number one, of course, she has the lovely accent, and she's very, soft spoken, very soothing to listen to. So I definitely love to watch her videos while I'm stitching because, again, it's just great to stitch along to. And her latest video, she went to visit an L&S in Belgium, and she got permission from the shop owner to, shoot a video while she was there. And exquisite. It's always interesting to me because you wonder what other people from around the world, what their tastes are in stitching. And I got the feel of like a more old-fashioned type of stitching, if that's even the right way to describe it. But lovely, lovely work. If anything, just go check out her latest video with her visit to that shop. I can't even start to pronounce the name of it, but she left a link, and I would like to go online, and take a look to see what they have to offer. And again, that's Hanneke, and her channel is a Dutch stitcher. And then the next one is Levi, and his channel is OH exclamation point, Stitch Happens exclamation point. And he has done 2 videos. I actually met him last year at StitchCon, and he lives in Ohio. He loves memorabilia. At StitchCon, he was finishing up Lady of the Flag, and he had done it on, a really, really pretty fabric. It was a blue, maybe Boreal, but it was blue with a lot of, definitely a lot of modeling, like the purple and the white and the pink modeling to give it that really intense effect. And with Lady of the Flag stitch on that, it was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning. And he is now doing Lady Liberty. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So if you are a memorabilia fan, definitely go check him out. Okay, and I just noticed that I'm wobbling you guys all around, so I apologize for that. So let's get started with stitching. Okay, I did also want to mention that I received some stitchy kindness, and this is from my friend Sarah, who is the Northwood Stitcher. She's up in Maine, and she sent me a little Valentine's card. Isn't that nice? And this is cross-stitched on paper. So I don't know where she got, because the holes that are in this paper, they're very neat. So she must have ordered this paper from somewhere. So she cross-stitched on paper, and this is a die cut. She's into the die cutting and the card making and the stamping, and just beautiful. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it so much. And her little name's on the back with a little smiley face. So again, something that I will keep on my desk because you never throw these away. So as I said, we've had snow. So I did pull out my Snow Day stitch, and I keep calling the pattern Snow Day, but it's not. It's Button Up by Prairie Schooler. So let me show you the pattern. Here you go. And I'm doing it all together as one. I did not do the individual ornaments or the individual squares, so to speak. So this has actually gotten some love. I didn't stitch on it yesterday. I was stitching on something else. But this is stitched on 32 count slate blue Lagana with all the called for DMC colors. And let me get a board out here. I actually finally cut my fabric because I had that big clump of fabric. And here we go. So, my needle minder is gonna, let's do this. Let's put this up at the top like this so I can hold it like this. So the last time you saw this, I had finished the gridding, and I had just started this word up here, button. In fact, I might have had it finished. But I came down, got more, and now the word winter goes in here. So I do plan on stitching on this today. It's kind of, I know that the Super Bowl is tonight. I don't know if I'll turn it on or not. I don't really have, a vested interest. I'm not rooting for one team or the other. So, but, so that is Button Up. And then I did go over to Panera yesterday in Salem. Hi, gang. It was nice to reconnect with everybody over there. I hadn't been over there in a couple months. And when I go over, I don't know what I'm going to stitch on. I just throw a couple projects in my bag and I go over. I was there for 3 hours and I did a half-hour stitching. You just gab and you drink coffee, and I don't know who it was. I think a couple different people brought in patterns. They were just going through patterns and hey, does anybody want these? So I spent a long time going through patterns. Of course, came home with some that who knows if they'll ever get stitched, right? But I did like them, and maybe someday they'll get passed on to Allie. But what was funny about this, all right, so I decided to pull out one of the smalls that was in my bag, and I pulled out the white paper thinking it was my working copy, and it was a vet bill from my dog Foxy from last June. And I can remember she had to go in to the emergency vet. And while I was there, I knew she would be there for a while. So I had brought a cross stitch pattern with me. I brought this with me because it's a small, and I was working on it at the vet's office. And that bill was in my bag, which shows me that I haven't even worked on this since last June. So shame on me. But this is Honey Fair by October House. And if I have a previous photo of where I was, I will post it up above. And I had actually started this as a small part of a smalls exchange for the Library Stitches retreat last year. But of course, then tax season. Tax season has started, not off with a big bang so far, so that's good. And so when I started yesterday, I had to finish filling in part of the greenery down here, and then I actually stitched these two flowers. So like I said, I only worked on it for half an hour, so I didn't put in a lot of time, but now I'll finish up with the flowers. These come down here, and then there's one more over here, and then the bee goes in, and then the bee scape. So maybe I'll get some substantial progress, noteworthy progress on this. And that is being stitched on, I believe it's a 30 count platinum, oh no, 30 count parchment linen by Weeks Dye Works with all the call for DMC. So that's all I have to show you for stitching. So let's do the box reveals. Okay, so I received 2 boxes. I belong to the Fat Quarter Club monthly box subscription, and this is the first time that I signed up to receive one of their holiday boxes. So I received a Valentine's box. They labeled it a Cupid box. And I did already open these because I don't have the overhead set up to do the whole reveal as I open it. So I've already opened these. So what came inside this one is, they call it a baby layer cake because it's not as big as a regular layer cake, but sorry about the glare, guys. But here's the fabric. Probably can't see it that well. And then it came with, these are little tags, little heart labels, which are so cute. And a heart needle minder, little cross stitches on it. And this is a magnetic dish. And you can, you can put your pins in there. It has a rubberized base. I mean, and obviously the needle minder sticks right to it. But I love that. I love that. You can never have too many things to hold your pins, especially me, because I'm the type of person, I'll always have my pins sticking out of my mouth when I'm sewing or quilting. Even when I'm cross stitching, I'll hold if my needle's not on my needle minder, it's in my mouth. Then there's a little card, a Valentine's card. So if I want to send that to somebody. And then there is a little quilt pattern, which the fabric goes to. So look at that. Isn't that adorable? And let's see, it's a 40.5 by 48. So it's a almost a 4 by 4. So 4 by 3 feet, 6 inches. So, and here's the full pattern on the back. So very cute. So glad I got that. So 4 feet, so that's a nice wall hanging size. So that's the Fat Quarter Shop box. And then I got Alicia's box, the Fanciful Flamingo. If I can figure out how to open it back up. And of course, she has her little logo on the top. And in this box, she has an exclusive pattern called Winter Love by the Spanish Stitcher, coordinating floss, finishing fabric by Riley Blake Designs, fabric name Magical Winterland, finishing some, oh, trim, can't read. Lady Dot Creates Rick Rack. My favorite things, a thread winder by PNB Making Memories, a planner sticker, project bag, tracker card. So, and she does Zoom stitch alongs. She has one scheduled for Tuesday, February 11th at 8 o'clock. So I will have to put that on my calendar. So, and of course, it's all wrapped in this beautiful pink like her. So here's a little sticker. I'll put that in my planner. Here is the project bag tag. And I like how she makes these. And you can just put this on your zipper pull on your project bag, you know, because now everybody's getting away from the vinyl front bags and they're going to the full, you know, material. So these are great to have on your zipper pulls because you may not know what's in your project bag, obviously. Project tracker card. Here is the Lady Dot Creates Rick Rack. It's called Ripe Avocados. Finishing fabric. Ooh, that's pretty. It's like a pale blue with green. All the little motifs are in green. Here is the floss winder. The DMC floss colors. And here is the pattern. I love this pattern. Winter Love. Hopefully you're not seeing a glare there. From the Spanish Stitcher. So very nice box. Another project for me to start, guys. Somebody was saying yesterday at the Stitchy group, we were talking about projects, and they were asking me if I had started any new ones, you know, because 85 whips isn't enough, right? Well, this will have to become 86, I think. And I finally got the gentle arts in that I needed for cardinal points. that I have kitted up, but I haven't started either. So, we're right on track. Just keep starting all the things, right? Which is what I love to do. Okay, so now I'm going to come back with talk about JOANNs. If that interests you, stick around. If not, thanks for joining me today. Like I said, it wasn't going to be a very long video. Hopefully I'll have more content the next time I see you guys. So again, next up is JOANNs. Okay, on to JOANNs. And sorry, the light has changed. My overhead light's on. So like I said, my cousin works for JOANNs. And this past week, the employees received a letter with excerpts and pages from the court documentation, basically involving what can potentially happen and the dates that these different matters are going to happen. So just a little background in case people aren't familiar with what's been going on, or may only know some things and not everything. JOANNs is a sewing and fabric retailer founded in 1943, and I made notes, so I am going to be reading. They currently have 115 stores in 49 states, and they employ approximately 19,000 employees. So JOANNs has been around for quite a while. They were a privately owned business, and then the pandemic hit. They are primarily a brick and mortar company. 96% of their revenues come from their stores. So they're not really a big online retailer. It's basically going into their stores. So the pandemic definitely affected them because, of course, they weren't deemed to be a necessary company to stay open. They realized that they were struggling, and in March of 2021, they went public, which means that they became incorporated and they decided to go public to sell stock so that they could use this venue to raise money for their company, which a lot of companies do. They decide to go public and hopefully make a killing, so to speak. So when they first went public in March of 2021, their stock was selling at $15 a share. Now, fast forward to February of 2025, their stock price is only 7 cents a share. So just keep that in mind. So by 2022, JOANN was facing increased competition, rising interest rates, which have affected everybody during the past 4 years, an over-leveraged balance sheet, which means that their debt was way more than their assets. So that's what over-leverage means. And a diminishing liquidity. So that can mean that they were not getting enough product to sell. Either because, well, we'll get into this further about vendors not supplying them, but also, maybe getting new product that would interest. They said that they referred to the Generation Z. And I can see that. I consider JOANNs to be a fabric store. That's what you always went to JOANNs to get your fabric. But again, rising competition, like they said, now there are so many little quilt shops that are open. They have JOANNs, they have Hobby Lobby. So it's not just fabric anymore. They try to outreach into more of the hobby craft type things. And obviously this hasn't worked out for them. Okay, so initially they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy in April of 2024. And the difference between Chapter 7 bankruptcy and Chapter 11 bankruptcy is that Chapter 7 is complete dissolving and liquidation. So you are planning to close your doors with Chapter 7. Chapter 11 offers you the means to restructure to try to stay in business, and you have to put together a proposal for the court, and the court has to sign off on it. Okay, which obviously the courts did. So at the time, they had a $500 million note owed to Bank of America and a $100 million note with 1903 Partners. Now, remember that name. As part of restructuring, they had to have their financials audited, which would be the normal course of action for any company undergoing a restructuring agreement. The court would want an audit done by an outside independent company to assure that by doing this restructuring agreement, that it will be beneficial for the company. Because the court isn't going to grant a restructuring agreement if the audit comes back and says, yeah, they're still not going to last. So they had the audit and they developed their restructuring plan. They were able to, and the court approved this, they were able to refinance their debt, freeing up $92 million while acquiring another $175 million from Bank of America. So now they're up to $675 million that they owe Bank of America and $100 million to this 1903 Partners. This was supposed to keep them afloat for the rest of 2024 and 2025 while the company did what it needed to do during their restructuring approach. Now, some of the ideas that were in this restructuring approach was to appeal to the Generation Z. They were going to move more to online sales. They were going to move to doing the apps, which they did. I use the JOANN app, and you have coupon deals on there all the time. But they were also going to look into rebranding their model, so to speak, getting more back into just being the fabric and sewing retailer, bringing in, right now, I think JOANN only sells Singers and Brothers. I could be wrong about that for sewing machines, but they were looking to expand their sewing machine lines and become a sewing machine retailer, bringing in the big guns like Janome and Juki and Viking, Baby Locks, whatever they were going to do, and also bring in the higher upscale fabric lines like the Modas and Riley Blakes and Tula Pinks, and get rid of some of their other crafty stuff that they really didn't need to carry, like the flowers and maybe the jewelry making, the woodworking stuff, what I call the household accoutrements, the decorating, decor, and just get back to their basics, what they started the company on. So that was part of their restructuring agreement. So why 9 months later are they filing Chapter 11 again? So backing up to 1903 Partners, they are an affiliate of Gordon Brothers. Excuse me. If you look up Gordon Brothers, they are a retail-focused investment firm. They acquire companies who are filing bankruptcy and restructure them, either making them profitable so that they can sell them. Excuse me, I have a cup of coffee here. Sorry about that. Like what they did with Polaroid, they brought They bought Polaroid when Polaroid was going bankrupt. They restructured Polaroid, and then they were able to sell Polaroid off at a profit. They bought Sports Authority when Sports Authority was going under, and with Sports Authority, basically with all the competition, with Dick's and I can't even think of the other sporting company's name. But anyway, there have been a lot of sporting stores out there. And with Sports Authority, they just decided to liquidate and get their money back, so to speak. And Big Lots is their most recent acquisition. And they did restructure Big Lots. They closed down some of their stores, and Big Lots is still up and running. And right now, Gordon Brothers still owns them. So that's what they do. They're in it to make a profit, obviously. So what failed with JOANNs restructuring? Well, number one, the creditors are saying that they did not stick to the restructuring agreement. They did not rebrand themselves. They did not do anything that they said that they were going to do. And there has been a lot of finger pointing. JOANN is pointing at the vendors, saying that they could not get the inventory and the supply chain for what they needed to do this restructuring. And the vendors and the suppliers are saying, well, they didn't pay us any money, so, we weren't going to do that. So anyway, there's a lot of arguing going back and forth of why this restructuring agreement failed with JOANNs. And right now, there is a committee that has been formed to not only look into that, but to look into Gordon Brothers and how they ended up in this process. So Gordon Brothers has been listed as a stalking horse bidder, stalking as in STALKING, like you're stalking a person. And the reason being is because of the 1903 partners being affiliated with them. They're all owned by the same company. And 1903 Partners, of course, has a $100 million note with JOANN. So there has been, the creditors have filed a motion with the court to form a committee to do an investigation into this. Because they're saying that because Gordon Brothers, let me back up a little bit. Gordon Brothers has come in and has put a bid out to buy JOANNs. And the creditors are saying that it was planned, that they're pointing a finger at JOANN, saying that JOANN's never had the intention of fulfilling the restructuring agreement, and that Gordon Brothers, because of their affiliation with 1903 Partners, knew about it, and that they're just trying to find the quick out. So Gordon Brothers coming in and putting through this bid to buy the company. So again, I will go through a timeline in a minute or two. But Gordon Brothers has come in, put in this bid, and they want it all signed, sealed, delivered, wrapped in a pretty package, less than 30 days. And of course, the creditors are like, this committee that we're forming doesn't even have time to check into all these allegations in a 30-day time period. So if Gordon Brothers gets the approving bid, because it still hasn't been approved yet, it will result in the loss. The creditors are saying it will result in the loss of 19,000 jobs. Hundreds of suppliers will be without money, and landlords will be without tenants. So at the first day of the hearing, the bankruptcy hearing, everybody's there, pointing their fingers, The court approved a committee to be formed to investigate the allegations, and the biggest complaint is that the unsecured creditors will end up not receiving any payment at all. So the difference between secured creditors and unsecured creditors is the secured creditors have collateral. It's like if you own your car and you have a debt against your car, if you stop making your car payments, GM or Ford is going to send a tow truck to your house and they're going to repossess your car. Same thing if you own a house. If you stop paying your mortgage, the mortgage company is going to foreclose on you and they're going to take your house. So a lot of these secured vendors probably have, the sewing machines, or they have stock, or I should say stock as in stock being sold on the market, on the stock exchange, but they have inventory that they can come back and take. It may not be all of it, but at least they'll get some recouping of their money. Whereas unsecured, that's Bank of America. They have no security for that $675 million. So Bank of America is, of course, one of these creditors saying, hey, how are we going to get paid? So the committee claims that JOANN and Gordon Brothers purposely orchestrated this timeline of less than 30 days from between January 15th and February 11th. That is the day that the final bids can be brought in, so that the committee wouldn't have time to conduct their investigation. Gordon Brothers also has wording in their bid that protect them and JOANNs from any potential litigation claims brought by accusing unscrupulous acts on their part. Okay, the committee argues that a sale timeline coupled with a 17-day challenge period is designed to prevent them from investigating potentially valuable or due claims. So again, with Gordon Brothers trying to rush this whole thing, the committee is saying that they will not have time to do their due diligence in this whole investigation. The committee only has 8 days to investigate every claim and then file a motion to the claim to the court before the exemption from litigation goes into effect for Gordon Brothers. Now, let me tell you something. If you Google JOANN court proceedings, I downloaded the latest objection. There are 314 motions that have been filed since this bankruptcy began, because of course, anything that you want brought before the court, you have to file a motion. So either it's a motion that you're presenting that you want to be heard, or it's a motion that you're objecting to the other party's motion. And when I give you the timeline of some of these things, this past week has been on fire. Every single vendor, every single landlord, it seems, have filed motions against JOANNs in court. And like I said, I don't know how many of them make up that 314 number, but there have been a lot of them. Okay. So they're claiming that Gordon Brothers and 1903 Partners have contended there is no money for an extended process, meaning that Gordon Brothers is coming back at the committee saying, well, we don't have money to drag this out. That's why we want it done in this 27-day time period. We want it over and done with so that we can move on with business of either liquidating or, rebranding, whatever they're going to do with it. But the committee, in the months leading up to the January filing, is stating that Gordon Brothers imposed $90 million in reserves, and they want to be paid immediately upon liquidation. Now, it should be noted that in the restructuring agreement with 1903 Partners, they had a clause in there that says that they, even though they are last in, because Bank of America obviously had their note way before 1903 Partners did, but they have it worded in there that even though they're the last, players to the game, so to speak, that they're going to be the first one paid when the liquidation process happens. And again, that's what the committee is objecting to, saying, this is all kind of fishy. 1903 Partners, Gordon Brothers comes in, then you guys are going to be the first ones to be paid out, and you had this all planned before any of this was even brought to the court with the January 15th second bankruptcy filing. So the committee is claiming that this is a red herring, and what a red herring is it's something that is purposely said or an act that is purposely done to be misleading. So with, again, Gordon Brothers saying that they don't have time to waste, they want to get this over and done with, the committee is pointing out the $90 million that they set aside in reserves. The committee is also challenging the February 12th date, which is the last day for bidders to make an offer on the company, saying it's not enough time. Again, the company just filed the bankruptcy on January 15th. The committee was appointed on January 30th, and Gordon Brothers came in almost immediately and put in their offer to buy the company. And the committee is claiming that it has not been enough time for other potential buyers to put together a package, because don't forget, you're talking millions of dollars. So unless you have that in your company, you have to go to a bank. You have to put a proposal together. Everybody knows that JOANN has filed bankruptcy. So in order for a bank to come on board to lend you the money to purchase JOANNs, you better have a good game plan in place for the bank to approve lending you however much they have to lend you, to cover the purchase of this and pay off JOANN's existing debt. So again, very valid concerns that this committee is raising. Another thing is that Gordon Brothers wants to be in charge of the liquidation process, and the committee is saying, no way, the court has to appoint somebody to be in charge of that. You're not going to come in here, say that you're getting paid first. You have these behind the scene dealings with JOANNs, and now you want to be in charge of the liquidation process on top of that? No. Okay, so here is the timeline. And again, the committee is saying that Gordon Brothers is dictating this timeline. This timeline was actually part of the court documentation that was given to the employees this past week with their letters. Okay. December 27th of 2024, JOANN created a special committee of board directors to bless a second bankruptcy filing. They brought in some independent board members. They brought some independent people on board, almost so that they could get this majority vote to do this second, the second bankruptcy. So January 15th, and of course, they got the approval. January 15th, they filed the second Chapter 11 bankruptcy hearing, and Gordon Brothers is right there to jump on board. January 30th, a committee is formed by the request of the creditors, looking into all this stuff that appears to be fishy between JOANNs and Gordon Brothers. The bid deadline for purchasing the company is February 12th. February 13th is the sale objection deadline to the Gordon Brothers bid. So if I want to buy JOANNs, I have to have my bid in by February 12th, and then I have to file an objection to Gordon Brothers' bid to purchase the company. On February 13th, oh, I'm sorry, on February 14th, okay, so now let's say that there's no other bids to go against Gordon Brothers, and the court is not going to accept Gordon Brothers. They come back and say, you know what, we're not accepting your bid either. On February 14th, the decision can be made to put the company up for auction or a sale hearing. So the court can decide that. On February 18th, if the court decides that they're not going to put the company up for auction and the court is going to structure a sale, then people have the option to file an objection to that sale. And then 221, there is a sale hearing if there is an auction scheduled. So all these different steps that need to take place. And this is on page 15 of the latest motion that has been filed by the committee. Okay, now this is what's on page 14. This is section 37 of that same motion. So this is the previous page. And this was also, my cousin said that she also saw this. I don't know if this was included with the letter, but she says that she has seen this, that it was made, public to her. Okay, and this is verbatim. This is exact how it's worded. If approved, the Gordon Brothers bid will mark the end of the JOANN business. Gordon Brothers will conduct a going out of business sale at all 800 stores and distribution centers to be concluded by May 31st of 2025. Not coincidentally, the Gordon Brothers bid is an amount barely sufficient to, number one, pay off the $462 million owed to the ABL/Philo creditors. Those are the existing creditors that are in this investing group, including the 1903 partners. So basically what they're saying is that Gordon Brothers is only offering the amount needed to cover the debt to these people. And number two, fund a liquidation plan process that will deliver no value to unsecured creditors. So again, if they are in charge of the liquidation plan, it's basically to benefit them, and there is nothing in the plan to pay off the unsecured creditors. The secured creditors are part of the ABL-Philo group. The unsecured creditors are out of luck. Furthermore, and without explanation, the Gordon Brothers bid includes all of the debtors, meaning JOANNs, causes of action, including insider claims. So basically what they're saying is that Gordon Brothers has said that they will take care of any insider claims, anything that will be due to their cause of action. It's almost like Biden pardoning all of his siblings before he left office in case something is brought up against them. So this is what Gordon Brothers is doing to themselves and to JOANN. Like, yeah, don't worry about that. We'll deal with that, and we're going to, if anything comes up, we'll be responsible for that. Adding insult to injury. The Gordon Brothers bid also includes avoidance actions, including preference claims, leaving unsecured creditors not only with no recovery, but potentially subject to preference exposure. And what that means is that they can come back and actually bring a lawsuit against a creditor for, what is the word? Coercion. So in other words, say like ABC Widget Company, Joanne owes ABC Widget Company 10 grand, and they need some of the stock or the retail, whatever it is that they buy from ABC Widgets to put on their shelves. ABC Widgets comes back to them and says, well, you know what, you owe us 10 grand, but if you pay us 5, we'll send you a shipment, because you've paid us that 5 grand. And then, so Joanne pays them 5,000, but ABC Widgets does not send them any new stock. So what this says, this preference exposure, is that JOANNs or Gordon Brothers can now come back and sue ABC Widgets and get that $5,000 back because JOANNs was coerced into making that payment and did not receive the widgets in return. So that's what that means. So anyway, what does all this really mean for JOANNs? Obviously, we can only speculate. To me, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like JOANNs is going to remain in business unless some of this gets cleared up. Obviously, there's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of tension and disagreement between Joanne and Gordon Brothers and the creditors. And I think basically this is going to depend on the courts. The courts will have the final decision, and maybe the courts will tell Gordon Brothers, hey, you know what, you have to, we don't agree with some of this stuff that's been going on behind the scenes. And you need to make every effort available to keep JOANNs open and pay off these unsecured creditors. So again, I guess keep track of these deadlines. They're coming up this week, and I'm sure it will all be in the news. If maybe the court will tell Gordon Brothers, you know what, you have to honor the original restructuring agreement. Once the committee figures out what happened and why it wasn't honored in the first place, were the vendors to blame? Was Joanne to blame? Did they, were they supposed to downsize some of their stores? Were they supposed to restructure their employment tier? When a company is facing financial crisis, the first thing they do is they lay off middle management and upper management, and then bring in other managers at lower pay rates that can still do that same job. That's business revamping 101. JOANNs didn't do that. They didn't, restructure any of their footprint. They didn't upgrade. They didn't do any of the things that they were going to try to upgrade and get themselves above the competition. And, basically, my cousin, the letter that she received, she says it did not leave her with a warm and fuzzy feeling. She's not optimistic, about the company going forward. But, she hangs in there. Another thing, too, she asks that people just be patient with the employees at JOANNs. They're very understaffed, and they're getting all these shipments in from the warehouses as JOANNs tries to, clear out inventory and liquidate everything so that they can, help get money in their pockets. But she says another thing too, come into the stores. People ordering online they're working with a limited staff anyway. So when that staff has to go fulfill these online orders for pickup, they're not able to unpack all these boxes, or they're not able to be in the fabric department cutting fabric. Or sometimes, if it's very early in the morning or late at night, there may only be two of them on, and they can't even go to the bathroom because the other one might be, doing something and she can't leave the counter, or. So she said, just be patient, just be nice to the employees, and if at all possible, keep coming into the stores so that it helps free up that person from having to fulfill those online orders. So, but there's nothing else that she can say about that. She can't reveal what was in the employee letter. Anyway, I hope that we're not seeing the end of JOANNs, but who knows? Okay, so that's it for me for today. I took longer with that than I had planned to, but I thought it was important to put out there since there's so much speculation going on and hearsay. So anyway, take care. Hopefully the next time I see you, I will have more stitchy progress to show you. But again, tax season has started, so we'll see about that. And in the meantime, stay safe, do what makes you happy, and happy stitching. Take care. Bye.